Whether we want to admit it or not, in our relationships, we've got issues. But the question becomes, are we working on them? To be fair, relationships are not rocket science. They're way, way harder.
Doesn't look like anything you see on TV or in the movies.
There's a lot of honesty in it.
Because you're married, you're gonna have struggles, you're gonna have conflict.
Relationships and communication is definitely about taking turns.
Perhaps nothing places more at stake for the general well-being of the family, the workplace, and the economy. Every relationship has issues, whether it's with your spouse, your child, or your business colleague. Issues arise when communication breaks down, when the decision-making falls apart, when a lack of skills are in place to resolve conflicts.
Marriage doesn't have an instruction manual. Parenting doesn't have an instruction manual. So you're always curious, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right things?
Believe it or not, marriage and family is kind of hard to talk about because it stirs a lot of different responses from people.
It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a whole lot more to keep marriages together. So let's introduce the elephant in the room. It's difficult to ignore the staggering statistics relating to failed relationships. In the United States in 2010, the divorce rate topped 41%, or roughly 4 in 10 couples. The number of children in single-parent homes has increased to 21.8 million.
Here in the state of Kansas, one of the stats we looked up was that almost 40% of our couples don't make it to the 5th year of marriage.
One of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job in the country, is the job of a single parent.
But we're not here to talk about divorce or failing relationships. We're here to talk about the "but we're working on them" part, and how that significantly changes the dynamic of the family unit. In 2011, newly elected Governor Sam Brownback pledged to focus on 2 key issues: strengthening families and strengthening the economy. As dynamically opposite as those two may appear, we may find that working on one significantly changes the landscape of the other.
You look at the research, and the research shows that as a country, we lose billions of dollars every year because people aren't relationally healthy, because their relationships are failing, and the business suffers because of that.
There is so much we have learned about couple and family life, even in the last 3 decades, that has just been crucial, even, I think it's fair to say, revolutionary in how we view couple behavior and functioning, and particularly that how we respond to it when relationships become distressed.
For state, local, and federal governments, the average cost of a divorce is about $30,000. Across the entire country, that's about $33 billion annually.
Marriage for Keeps began as a research project. It's part of the Supporting Healthy Marriage Project, a federal grant looking at families, and if we provide marriage education, marriage enhancement, marriage enrichment to couples, what impact would it be for their children?
What goes into a healthy marriage? Can you make marriages better? If so, what difference does it really make? How does it impact the children? How do, can you make some changes within a marriage that will have some staying power over the years? All these types of questions were going to be attempted to be answered by this research project.
We had the best cake. It was what was it, strawberry chiffon? I don't know what it was called, but anyways, I couldn't wait to eat it, and I didn't get any. And when everybody had left, we sat down and we're like, yes, can I have some cake? No, it's all gone. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. My own wedding cake and I didn't get to eat any of it.
We were having a discussion.
It was more like a debate.
A debate.
It was turning into a debate at Walmart.
I'm an amazing person, so Lacey really wanted to be around me more, and I thought that was great too.
That's how that went down, okay.
Date nights are very important. It makes Tim realize that I'm really trying to put him first. Obviously, when you have kids, date nights mean making time for each other.
Pretty much the first day, I didn't really look to get too much out of it, I have to admit. Going into it, I kind of was half drugged there by her, and you know, it wasn't very long into it that where I, you know, started to think that maybe there would be something out of it. And having gone through the whole thing, it's a great program. I'm a skeptic by nature, and I think it's a really good thing.
Generally speaking, I think what's most important is that the majority of Americans still choose to live in marriages. Even after there's been a divorce, by far the majority of persons who have divorced choose to remarry.
What is healthy in a relationship is to have two people who desire to be in that relationship and want to have a commitment toward that relationship, a commitment to making it be healthy, happy, safe, long-lasting.
I think about a specific couple who the wife told me, you know, several weeks after we'd begun working together, that she really had to drag her husband in to come. And then after a couple weeks, he was saying, come on, it's time to go. We need to get there. But they shared with me that they were on the brink of divorce.
Marriages take work for a lifetime. It is not something you can put on autopilot for too long.
Something occurred one day with her son, and she said, oh, I know this is a yucky day. I'm so sorry. And he looked up at her and he said, no, we don't have any more yucky days. And it was this couple completely attributed to the program.
It actually felt like going back to college because we walked into the stadium seating and we sat in the corner at the top and didn't want anybody to bother us. But no, it was good. You know, part of it, because we got married so young, we got blindsided. Marriage is hard.
We were walking in, and I had a Coke can, and I'm like on a pedestal preaching my theory and my ways and everything relentlessly, you know.
Not loud.
Not loud, but just to her, directed at her.
And I was just kind of.
And she reaches over and takes,
I went
my
like
Coke
this.
can.
And he, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, that's one of the techniques we use, except we don't have, you know, you're supposed to use some sort of object. Of course, when you take someone's Coke away from them, it really gets their attention anyways.
One of the nice things about the initiative we're talking about is that it's been part of a federally funded research project. So we have a really good idea of what works, what doesn't work, you know, what are the things that are most efficient and cost efficient.
One of the reasons we got interested in doing this work at all around marriage and healthy relationships is because we realized that as a state and as a country, we're in trouble. A lot of couples are struggling. The outcomes of couples struggling is that our kids struggle.
What children need most, even more than good parents, are parents that love each other.
Kids need parents who love each other. More than just for their own, you know, to make sure that they feel loved, but because it's a chance, it's probably the first and most important chance to see a good relationship with, you know, good conflict resolution. That's a silly word, but those things modeled in a relationship. And these things don't come naturally.
The relationship I have with my wife is that foundation that kid grows up on, and we have to take care of each other. And then that's a great start to being a good parent, I think.
I love everything about him. Today, I haven't always.
That's true.
There are 8 to 10 concepts and skills, when practiced, can make a significant difference even in good relationships already.
The curriculum that we used in our program was authored by PrEP. It is called Within Our Reach. There were what we call the 3 keys, and those are make it safe to connect, do your part, and decide, don't slide.
Some of the dynamics of a healthy relationship are really focused around one central ability or skill set, and that is the ability to resolve problems well.
I talked about it being unnatural, a lot of the things that we learn and that we apply. They're not the normal way that you feel like I've seen communicating with my spouse modeled before. But when you understand like those principles, it's safe to connect. I can understand how if you were to explain to a rational person, someone is coming to you and they want to tell you something, And if you explode in their face, if you're yelling and screaming because of how you're feeling at that point, they're not going to be heard. And so it's not going to accomplish the goal.
I think safety is a huge key with healthy relationships. Safety means emotionally safe. It means that I don't have to worry about being humiliated.
Adults depend on that sense of connection or safety just as much throughout their life course as adults as children do in their upbringing.
If it's not safe, you can't be healthy.
I just feel safe, standing on solid ground. I'm just totally standing on solid ground.
It means I feel safe physically, that I don't have to worry about being hurt physically in the relationship. And it means that I have some sense of safety that this relationship is a committed one and will last.
It's funny because as we're recalling it by title, our son still will call us out on it because he hears us practicing it through the time or whatever, but you're not doing your part, you know. So.
It's not the husband's job to take care of the relationship. It's not the wife's job to take care. That it's something the two of you do together. And then that can be related into household things, you know. It's not just the husband's job to fix the car, and it's not just the wife's job to fix dinner. Those are kind of old traditional roles. But how can we help each other?
Doing your part just means to be selfless. It's an attitude that you have to have in a marriage so that you're giving to the relationship, you're not always taking from it.
The three most important words in healing in marital therapy really aren't "I love you." It's really "I miss you," because it acknowledges that distress comes from a loss of this life-giving connection that we adults really depend on.
The concept of decide, don't slide has to do with people being intentional in their life, not just in their relationships, really. That this concept permeates everything that we do, at least as I see it. So decide, don't slide means be intentional about the decisions that you want to make in your life rather than letting life make those decisions for you.
A lot of the decisions that we were living in day to day were because that's where we ended up, not necessarily because that's where we wanted to be.
Each and every week, there's something you can do to tend to a marriage. There's something that you might need to be reminded of, as opposed to just coming to an event for one day.
When I went through my engagement preparation, the priest sat down with us and he looked us in the eye and he said, "Love is a decision, not a feeling." And I've remembered that over and over, that I'm going to decide to love my wife every day. And I may not feel good, I may not be happy, but I'm going to love my wife every day.
We just shared what people around us were in the aisle. I'm sure they thought we were just sharing a Coke back and forth, but what we were doing is resolving an issue right there in the store, and it never escalated into
She got her spill done, and then she handed me the can.
Typically, our brains tend to start thinking about our responses to what someone has said to us really fast. So if somebody gives me a thought or an opinion, within about 7 to 10 seconds in there, my brain's already got a response to that. The problem in communication is if I just keep letting my brain respond, then I'm really not going to hear that other person.
And then, okay, now it's my turn. So I started talking, and then she said, well, and I thought,
Yeah, it has to go both ways.
It goes both
You gotta
ways.
be fair.
And so by the end of walking through the store there, and I mean, we were laughing and having a good time.
Yeah.
And so it was walked
never,
out.
yeah, we just resolved it right then and there, and nobody was any the wiser as to what we were doing. But it was almost a natural thing at that point, because we'd been through some classes, and it felt unnatural in the classes, but you get out there and you've got an issue and you want to resolve it. And I got the last sip of Coke and I was happy. And
Speaker-listener technique is a technique that we teach couples to be able to slow the process of communicating down.
Couples that agree and practice speaker-listener, it's impossible to do the danger signs.
You know, the process of communicating doesn't just involve you telling the person that you care about how you feel, but you really need to listen.
The greatest communication tool we've gotten from Marriage for Keeps, for sure.
When there's tension building, in your conversation and your relationship, you can use the speaker listener technique to relieve that tension, and at that point you're back to a normal communication. Things have been resolved, or the steps have started to resolve those things, and you don't have to worry about everything else.
It takes artificial means sometimes to stop automatic behaviors.
When you're fighting, you just want to jump in, yeah, but, and get your 2 cents in, because surely no one's going to be advocating for you.
When you're in a conflict with someone, you want your way, they want their way. And if you don't have a middle ground to say, hey, let's do this together, even if it was a Coke can, it was doing it together then. It took that whole separateness out of it.
What I hope is next for the project is that our community embraces the importance of marriages, importance of relationship, importance of couples, and recognizes that there are things we can all learn and things that we can do to enhance those relationships.
If your marriage is worth saving, then you'll do it.
Practitioners are gung-ho on this. They already understand that strong families leads to a strong state.
There are very clear statistics, and more emerging every day, that can put a dollar bottom line amount on what relationship difficulties are costing businesses. There are some estimates that many billions of dollars are lost in productivity, as many as $6 billion in productivity losses across the United States because of relationship difficulties alone.
A relationally healthy person is a more productive employee. They tend to be more satisfied in their job, and they relate well, on teams at work.
The statistics for the business community are sobering, really.
There's one study that suggests that for an average $20 an hour employee, the cost of the business, an annual cost of the business, is about $8,500 per divorcing employee. That's the bottom line cost to a business.
Business community is the untapped giant. When I first started thinking about this and we first started talking about the business community, it seemed like an instant no-brainer to me.
I have a colleague who works in one of the local EAP places where our students train as interns. And he says clearly, the number one reason that employees come to their EAP services is for marital and family distress.
We work with employers in reference to helping employees' lives be enriched, and if they do have some difficulty in reference to what's going on in their life, they can come to Impact and we provide assistance for them.
It often takes not just a few people to spark a movement.
There's a lot of businesses that are out there in the community that have a commitment to wanting to see strong families. So as they start to see a ball begin to roll, a vision begin to form in this, I think you'll get to see them jump on board to try and support where we're headed.
Take a company that has about 500 employees. We know that about 60% of those employees, or about 300 of those employees, will be married. We also know that at any given time, about 20% of the married couples will be experiencing some relational difficulty at any given time. So that's about 20% of those employees that are at risk of divorce. If you take the average bottom line cost to a company of about $8,500 for a $20 an hour employee, we know that it would cost the company, if that couple were to divorce, about $500,000 of lost productivity.
We have a company that has over 4,500 employees, and we see firsthand how, when people are having issues at home and stress in relationships at home, how it can impact their abilities at work and really begin to turn into a bottom line impact as far as a loss of productivity or them being gone more and having to have other people backfill or work overtime.
The idea of presenteeism is that people are clearly much less productive. To be fully engaged and adding the most value as an employee means that your mind is clear and you're able to completely focus 100% on the business task at hand. And if you're distracted, you're present but you're not fully productive.
There's so much energy and talent in this community to have a huge impact on the relational wellness and well-being of all of our adults and all of our kids in this state.
Conflict is a fact of interpersonal life, and if we can give people the tools to deal with that over the lifetime of a long-term relationship, I have every faith that their research will continue to show that gaining in effectiveness in communication will enhance the likelihood of that marriage continuing.
Families today face many challenges, and so strengthening families is core to a poverty reduction strategy. And it's especially important really for low-income families so that they can have strong marriages that regardless of whatever barrier they face, they know that their marriage is strong and they can weather almost any storm.
For a lot of people in the business community, though, it's not even just a numbers game. You invite people into your corporate family, really, when you hire them, and to see them going through hard times is difficult as well.
This is the time to move forward. The window of opportunity is open. We need to engage communities, organizations, our government, and really make the case. We have the data. We have compelling stories of people's lives that have been changed in such positive ways that this is our moment. And I think that now is the time to seize that moment and move forward.
You just stop and think of what you've learned and apply those keys to the situation, and before you know it, you're laughing at yourself and you're laughing about the situation.
It's so easy in this world to feel like you're the only one who struggles, or you're the only one who wants to make things better, and you just don't know how.
It will enhance your relationship, and you deserve it, you know. And your children deserve it. And if that's why couples do it, you know, if they do it because they're thinking of their kids, then that's awesome, and they're going to benefit tremendously.
When my daughter grows up and gets married, I hope that she learns to communicate. I hope that she picks up on what we've learned and what we've learned to implicate in our marriage.
What can we do to really make meaningful changes with an individual family, with a community and society that will put us on a track of strengthening families on many different levels in many important ways?
It starts from the premise that as human beings, in order to survive, we know we have to be connected to others.
She knows me inside and out. She knows everything about me and how I feel and how I work and what I think, and I mean, we've truly become one with each other.
So we've all got issues, right? But does that mean we're all dysfunctional? No, it simply means that we have work to do. Relationships take hard work. It's not rocket science, remember?